From overcooked nightmares to bizarre flavor combinations, these chefs have crossed every line. Here's a look at the very first disaster in the kitchen. In Season 5, one contestant managed to piss Chef Ramsay off with every single move that he made.
I got too much fight left in me to go down like that.
Yeah, Seth was determined to get on Chef Ramsay's nerves. But right from the get-go, you could tell that he was hitting a really rough patch. I mean, his first batch of scallops? Not exactly picture perfect, right?
Seth, you can go fuck yourself. Come here. Rubber scallops, yeah? What is that?
Sheesh, the service had just begun and this dude was already screwing things up. Of course, the famous chef wouldn't allow it.
Eat it. Go on.
He made Seth taste his own disaster, and to me, there is nothing worse than eating your own mistakes. But Seth, instead of feeling embarrassed, was enjoying every single bite of his horrendous meal.
I didn't have any dinner prior to that, so I was pretty happy to be eating them.
Yup, he had no shame in admitting that it was a welcome punishment since he had skipped dinner. And forget about Chef Ramsay, his laid-back attitude left even his teammates annoyed.
Unfortunately, Seth just doesn't have the skills and just couldn't do it. It's just rookie mistakes.
I think we can all pretty much agree on that. Anyway, later on that night, the famous chef called out the next ticket for the blue team, but instead of paying attention to the ticket, Seth was busy doing something else.
On order.
Bacon.
Entree, one dory, one chicken, one lamb, one Wellington.
Right here.
Seth!
That actually happened. This all happened before deepfakes were even a twinkle in the eye of tech bros around the world. But that aside, it completely blindsided Chef Ramsay. However, you should know by now, if there's anything Chef Ramsay hates, it's being ignored. And he wasn't about to let Seth's nonchalance slide.
What did I just call out?
Uh-oh, Seth was caught off guard. He started sweating and had no idea what Chef Ramsay was talking about.
I know you don't know, because you weren't even fucking prepared to listen. No wonder you're struggling.
Seth had broken a cardinal rule of the kitchen by ignoring the famous chef's command. And of course, he wasn't gonna take it lightly. He took an entire minute to process what was up with him, but just then, Seth did something disgusting.
What is he doing?
Again, this is actually what happened. Like, what was the thought process here? Hygiene definitely wasn't on the brain, that much is clear. And unfortunately for him, and fortunately for us, Chef Ramsay happened to see it.
I just watched you wipe your face and then wipe a pan.
The famous chef was boiling with fury, but he tried to maintain his composure as he confronted Seth about his nasty move. And all Seth could manage was a feeble and half-hearted "sorry, chef." Of course, the famous chef wasn't having it.
Where's your cooking cloth?
I'll have to get my job.
Hopefully.
I mean, this was messed up on so many levels. And Seth was walking around like it was the most normal thing ever. Chef Ramsay asked him to buzz off, and believe me, the man looked plain disgusted to the core. He couldn't even hide it anymore. But sadly for the famous chef, Seth's disregard for hygiene became the least of his worries as both the teams were named joint losers. The service was a disaster, and Chef Ramsay decided to give a piece of his mind to all the contestants.
I don't want to wait for your shit anymore. I don't want your shit anymore. I don't want you drying your face.
And when he laid his eyes on Seth, Ramsay's frustration hit its peak.
And then fucking cooking with a cloth, you scummy Get out!
Yeah, the famous chef was done with them. Meanwhile, back at the dorms, Giovanni singled out Seth for elimination. What's more, Robert highlighted his sweaty cloth incident as one of the 3 big issues that evening. And just like that, Seth was the blue team's first nominee.
You struggle very hard to get the scallops up. I think fish is one of the easier stations.
With Ben being the second nominee, they joined Colleen and Lacey from the red team. During his plea, Seth tried his very best to stay in the competition.
Although not as experienced as the rest of these guys, I think have the biggest heart here and the most passion to want this. I absolutely think that I could still be the victor of this competition outright, Chef.
Despite his efforts to convince Chef Ramsay, Ramsay wasn't able to forget the sweaty blunder. And quite expectedly, Seth was punished accordingly.
Seth, take your jacket off. Let's go.
But let's be real, Chef Ramsay probably had his eye on him since the very first service. Seth's performance has always been subpar, and the cloth incident only made things worse. In his exit interview, Seth owned up to his lack of skills, acknowledging that it was the only thing that ultimately sealed his fate and not his passion. However, Chef Ramsay thought otherwise.
He had all the passion in the world, but the bottom line is, he's a crap cook.
No doubt. But he definitely wasn't the only contestant who drove Chef Ramsay up the wall in Season 5. Because this next contestant's every move seemed to spell trouble. You see, Episode 7 was a pretty tough one for Jay Maxwell. Things start to spiral downwards right from the start of the service. While Jay was at the fish station, Chef Ramsay had ordered the red team to prepare a risotto. But the risotto presented wasn't exactly up to his standards.
Taste the rice. It's like mush.
The famous chef had a nagging feeling that it wasn't Carol's fault though. To investigate a little further, he asked to see the rest of the rice, and guess what he found?
Oh my God, it's overcooked.
The rice was overcooked to begin with, and Chef Ramsay couldn't imagine who could mess up something so simple. He demanded to know who cooked the rice, and well, look what we have here.
Just gotta cook the risotto.
Blue team.
The blue team.
Wow, I never would have guessed. All eyes immediately shifted towards the other side of the kitchen as Chef Ramsay decided to confront the culprit. And when Jay showed up, you can pretty much imagine what happened next.
Look at it, Jay. How can you do that, Jay? Jay!
The famous chef was so disappointed, it was written all over his face. Not only did Jay overcook the rice, but he did something even worse.
For both teams?
Yes, chef.
Oh,
Yup, Jay had cooked rice for both the teams, and it looked like the risotto would have to be stricken from the menu for the night. It was a mistake of colossal proportions that affected both teams. And even someone like Lacey found the rice to be nasty, and I think that says a lot.
It's mushy, clumpy, and nasty, and it definitely was not a good way to start the evening.
Meanwhile, the famous chef wanted to get the whole truth out of Jay. He couldn't imagine how the whole batch of rice for both teams could screw up so badly. And that's when Jay revealed that he's used one single pan for the whole batch. No wonder, and Chef Ramsay couldn't believe his ears.
oh, come on. Fuck off, Jay.
I'll get a pot on, chef.
Jay had let his icon down, and unlike Seth, he at least accepted his mistake.
I definitely didn't need that because, Chef Ramsay's been riding me hard the past couple days.
Maybe that would have helped you perform better, right? Anyway, with all that overcooked rice, Chef Ramsay only had one option left.
Jean-Philippe, stop the risotto, yeah?
Yeah, there was no way they could cook an entire batch of rice in time like Jay suggested. And somehow, single-handedly, Jay had managed to screw over everybody in the house that night. The chefs, the guests, Chef Ramsay, and most importantly, the servers. They were definitely gonna get an earful from the customers about it. Even Robert, who had been Jay's support system throughout the entire competition, couldn't let a blunder as big as this slide. But guess what? The risotto was just the beginning of his mistakes.
Look, it's still stone cold. Back in the oven.
The famous chef was pissed. It was almost like Jay put a curse on everything that he touched. The guy just kept screwing up over and over again. And it just kept getting worse.
Jay just lost his shit, man.
The next thing he was working on, the salmon, came out burnt. And his second attempt was even worse.
Bozo, toss! Come here, you. Put that down. Come here, you. Come here, you.
Overcooked rice, burnt salmon, and now a salmon without sauce? This guy was all over the place. And the famous chef was so damn pissed that he hauled him into the pantry for a much-needed wake-up call.
What's the matter with you?
I don't know. I'll fucking turn it on right now, chef.
I can't fucking go any further. Please, wake up.
Yes, chef.
Now Jay looked pretty confident that he could rise to the occasion and redeem himself. But sometime later, when he sent his scallops to the pass, this is how it turned out to be.
What is that? What is that?
Now, Chef Ramsay's blown up on the show more times than anybody could reasonably count, but this time, it was really different.
Unbelievable. No, 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 no. No! Get out!
The famous chef really expected Jay to do better after that little chat in the pantry, but it looks like he was beyond repair. And Ramsay was so pissed that he almost chased Jay out of the kitchen. Now here's a little pop quiz for you. Guess the exact number of times Chef Ramsay says "get out" in the next clip. Go on, I'll give you a sec to think it over.
Get out! Out, out, out! Get out! Out! Get out!
I'd give you an answer, but I lost count. Anyway, I think you get the point. Jay was literally kicked out of the kitchen. And this dramatic elimination turned out to be a moment of realization for Jay. Too little too late, I'd say.
I guess I don't belong here, so I'll be going home.
In his exit chat, Jay promised that he'd start anew and open his own joint without Chef Ramsay's backing. Well, I guess that goes without saying, but anyway.
It was a tough day.
Speaking of mid-service eliminations, who could forget this next contestant who got the boot in the very first episode of his particular season? Like, you've gotta be a special kind of awful to be the first out the door. And there's certainly one every single season, but Louis from season 6? He was a special kind of awful. So Louis' first and only dinner service was doomed right from the start when he was assigned to the meat station. When his team moved on to the entrees, he was caught doing something he most definitely shouldn't have been doing.
You just put a lamb in the oven?
Yes.
And Chef Ramsay wasn't happy about that.
Oh my God. Hey guys, come here, quick.
I think you have a fair idea of what went down next. And if you don't, let me help you refresh your memory.
Louis on entrees, and the fucking lamb goes in the oven like that. No salt, no pepper, no seasoning.
Wait, did he forget to season the lamb before throwing it in the oven? Wow, and this is the same person who owns a freaking diner. Honestly, makes you wonder how much he's seasoning his own food. But wait, there was still more to come.
Not even seared.
No wonder Chef Ramsay was pissed. Chef Ramsay had to actually school him about why you need to sear lamb. And for those of you who don't know, it's time you pay attention.
To give it color, to improve the flavor.
Yeah, now that's something Louis obviously knew, but it looks like he just didn't bother actually doing it. And this behavior of his left even his teammates annoyed.
There's a primal instinct inside you that knows how to cook meat. You need to find it.
Anyway, despite that, his whole team rallied behind him at the meat station, trying their very best to help him. An hour into the service, the blue team served 8 tables of appetizers. However, just as things were starting to go well, Chef Ramsay noticed something was off.
You're on the garnish, Louis on the meat.
Yes.
He's cooking the spinach. Why?
Yeah, for some reason, Louis thought that he was capable of handling 2 stations when he couldn't even get 1 right. In fact, Joseph wasn't even aware of Louis working at his station, and above all, he had no idea why. And when the famous chef asked Louis about it, guess what he said?
I thought I had to put it all together, chef.
But wait, the famous chef was so confused. Wasn't he assigned to the meat station? What the hell was he trying to prove?
What's your station?
I'm doing lamb and rack of lamb and chicken.
So why are you cooking the spinach?
I thought it went on the plate, sir.
Clearly, Louis could not stay out of trouble. He was making mistakes left and right, but still had the audacity to talk shit about Chef Ramsay.
I was just trying to get a head start. Maybe Chef Ramsay should just pull the panties out of his ass or something.
Imagine screwing up to the extent of putting his entire team in jeopardy and then saying crap like that? Well, the guy was seriously in way over his head. But the famous chef wanted to regain control in his kitchen. He asked Louis to stick to his damn job as he already had enough problems to deal with. However, moments later, when he finally managed to send up his lamb to the pass, Louis' confidence failed to show up in his dish.
What? What is that? What is that?
After having years of experience, this is what he comes up with? The famous chef was shocked. But just then, he found something even worse.
Look at this! Look!
The famous chef could not believe his eyes.
Look! Look! What the fuck is this?
And Ramsay had had enough. He couldn't work with someone who had absolutely no respect for the job or the ingredients he was spending a fortune on. And so, he did the obvious thing.
Louis!
Yes, sir.
Fuck off back there! Get out! Get fucked!
And no, he didn't simply just kick him out of the service.
Upstairs, get your bags packed!
Can I help? Can I help in the
Yeah,
kitchen?
you can help me! Get out!
Louis' elimination was the first on-the-spot elimination in the show's history. And after that embarrassing exit, Louis headed back to the dorms, packed his bags, and left Hell's Kitchen for good. But not before making one last comment.
You want me to pack my fucking bags? I'm out. My bags are packed. He can kiss my fucking ass!
Talk about arrogance. But I mean, arrogance is one thing, but lighting your station on fire, that's another thing entirely. So, during the family night dinner service of episode 4, season 4, Shayna was at the pasta station when things suddenly went up in flames.
Oh no, don't! Oh my god.
Shayna's clumsiness could have easily burned the entire place down not even halfway into the season. And the famous chef, who was already tired of handling a chaotic kitchen, was served yet another sizzling problem to deal with.
Shayna's on fire. Hey, but don't burn the fucking kitchen down, yes?
But that's not even the worst part. When Vanessa tried to help her take the pan off the heat, the hot oil that was literally up in flames dropped from the pan right onto her hands. And with a burn like that, you best believe Vanessa was scarred for life.
Chef, can somebody give me some ice and some pouring cream, please?
The poor girl, who only wanted to help, was writhing in pain as panic took over the kitchen.
I looked at her hand and it was blazing red.
Vanessa dashed to see the medic, clenching her hands to her chest, and once there, she realized things weren't exactly going in her favor.
Oh, that's sort of gonna hurt.
Vanessa's agony was evident. She had sustained a second-degree burn and was shortly rushed to the hospital. As Vanessa departed for medical attention, Shayna couldn't shake her worry. After all, she was the one responsible for all of it.
She's gone for a few minutes and she's not coming back. Holy shit, what the hell's going on out there?
Just as the entire team was trying to make sense of what happened, the famous chef walked in and broke the dreadful news.
You're one man down. She's on the way to hospital now, okay?
Without Vanessa in the kitchen, the team put their heads together and eventually managed to rise to the occasion. However, Shayna couldn't seem to shrug off the guilt. And, well, Vanessa, she paid the price for just helping a teammate out. Speaking of danger, Shayna wasn't the only one who put a teammate in harm's way. So, in episode 8 of season 10, during the Dome Challenge, in what can most certainly be called a ballsy move, Royce grabbed some lobster for his dish.
I just took a bite of that lobster and it was f***ing delicious. You know, I feel great. I'm confident in my dish.
He was so busy hyping up his own creation that some of the mistakes he made had totally slipped his mind. Anyway, he was the final person from the blue team to have his dish judged, and he went up against Christina. Royce presented a whole poached lobster in saffron and thyme, but the judges discovered a nasty little secret.
What was that? Hair.
Man, that was embarrassing. And Chef Ramsay?
Jesus Christ.
He couldn't imagine that Royce had actually presented this nightmare to his guests. But wait, there was more.
It's a long one.
Oh my God.
The famous chef was beyond embarrassed, and even Clemenza couldn't believe what was going on.
You give a chef who has 2 Michelin stars a plate with a piece of hair on it.
Royce had screwed up big time. And Ramsay couldn't even look the judges in the eye. And to make things even worse, one of the judges dropped another brutal comment.
It's not curly, so I'm pretty happy about that.
Chef Ramsay was disgusted. He walked straight up to Royce and sternly demanded to know what the hell a long strand of hair was doing in this dish. And what was Royce's response? After trying to shift the blame on Roshni, he came up with yet another feeble excuse.
I don't know how there ended up being a 12-inch piece of hair on my dish. That sucks.
However, that wasn't all. Turns out there was another massive flaw with the dish.
You know, there's a part of the lobster too that you should always remove. The shit sack.
Could it get any worse? It was horrible enough to have hair in the dish, and now this? I mean, I don't think there's any excuse to justify not doing the most basic bit of cleaning for a lobster dish. And Ramsay's decision was final.
That's a bad dish I have, followed by a shit sack. I was predicted 3.
Meanwhile, Kimmy couldn't believe the audacity he had to serve this poor excuse of a dish to Michelin star chefs of all people.
What the fuck are you thinking, dude?
Well, of course, the blue team lost the challenge and was punished by cleaning up the dorms and prepping for that night's dinner service. No thanks, Royce. But before the team could even get to work, Chef Ramsay couldn't stop thinking about the mess Royce had served up.
Royce, what the fuck are you doing with a hair that long on the plate?
I have no idea, chef.
Well, if you're not gonna fix your game, then maybe cook up better excuses next time, huh, Royce? But this next one just pushed the boundaries of culinary fails.
And I'm emotional ass.
Yeah, Brett really said the N-word on national television. Now, there is no excuse, but if you still have any doubts, the season 3 winner Rock Harper tweeted this. He made it loud and clear that in no context is it okay for a white chef to say the N-word. Pause the video now and read his words carefully. He was referring to someone else, but the point still stands. One of the quotes on Rock's tweet aptly sums it up. This shouldn't even be a question. A workplace should create an inclusive space at all times that includes language. Words have power. The history of a word matters as long as the effects of that history are still felt. So yeah, Brett was definitely in the wrong here. But even not keeping that in mind, he was all over the place on a good day.
Brett, how many kids you got?
A 10-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old stepdaughter-ish, I guess you could say. I'm sure there's more out there that I don't know about, they don't want to tell me about, to be honest with you. Nah, maybe like 6.
Oh wait, it's not over.
I loved a woman before, but not really. I mean, yeah, but like it's weird because then I'm like, you know, I ran through so many broads. Ugh.
One of the many barriers blocking women from leadership positions is the unfair stereotype that they're overly emotional. Well, what about Brett being so volatile then?
I feel like I should go home tonight, so performance. Dave, Vicky, I love y'all. Everything. Later.
And so prone to breakdowns.
I ain't came out here to fucking lose. I'm fucking furious.
Honestly, I feel people around him had to walk on eggshells. So if women do it, they're too emotional, and if he does it, then what? Passion? Not to forget that he took part in the Trev hate train and bullying in season 18. Anyway, I'm not sure if any of you knew about this, but surprisingly, Matt from season 16 is a pretty big racist. There was an exchange between Matt and Hassan on Facebook where Matt was spewing racist bullshit like implying that Hassan should leave America. Thankfully, he was called out for it. So, Matt is your typical ignorant wannabe gangster. Him and Jason Underwood could definitely be best friends. Anyway, viewers have rightly criticized him too. And by the way, his performance on the show was just as pathetic. During the first dinner service, Matt found himself on the fish station alongside Gennaro. An argument ensued with Andrew over the state of the scallops as Matt insisted they were still raw. When he eventually sent the scallops to the pass, they were indeed undercooked, prompting Chef Ramsay to demand accountability. Threatening to eject both Matt and Andrew if they didn't confess, Matt pointed fingers at Andrew, even suggesting reviewing the camera footage for proof. Chef Ramsay, unimpressed, sternly instructed him to disregard the cameras, emphasizing the importance of sending perfectly cooked scallops regardless of who was watching. What's more, he also advised him to adjust his attitude while he was at it.
The camera. Unfold your arms now and don't give me a scallop unless it's cooked perfectly. You get it? The attitude. Cook it or off.
Sometime later, he lied when his sea bass came out raw. Then, during the ostrich meat challenge, Matt presented a grilled ostrich dish with caramelized carrots and Hawaiian pico de gallo. But in the end, it received criticism from Morin, which the former didn't take very gracefully.
It's like 3 people sitting at a table. That don't even make no sense to me. It's irritated me. Not only is it irritating, it's embarrassing.
He simply had zero regard for professional feedback. His performance in this round contributed to the blue team losing the challenge 1-3. However, Matt was just as sour as ever and got really frustrated with the competition. He even claimed that the judges didn't know what they were talking about. And to make things even worse, he boycotted the punishment.
I don't want to sit here and listen to these guys degrading me and talking. It's just really starting to irk me.
He was a rebel without a cause. Actually, more like disrespectful punk.
I'm gonna pack my up and roll the out of here. Take the punishment like a man. That, yo, I'm not doing it.
Later, sous chef Aaron summoned Matt to meet with Chef Ramsay in his office. Matt voiced his dissatisfaction with what he perceived as unfair treatment for the blue team and insisted that he cooked his dishes according to the given instructions. Chef Ramsay, however, reminded him that the judges' decisions were final, and if he wasn't up for the competition, he wouldn't stand in his way. Despite initially expressing a desire not to quit, Chef Ramsay emphasized that the competition would have its highs and lows, right? Well, I think Matt's overall behavior showcased a lack of competence and a tendency to make excuses rather than facing the challenges head-on.
They're going to call it as they see it, and you feel that you aren't good enough to win this. I'm not going to force you to stay, buddy. This journey is about ups and downs.
He's a child who was never told no, which explains why he was still throwing tantrums even at his age. Now, during the Creative Sliders Challenge, Matt asserted his desire to showcase seafood, dismissing concerns about his teammates' opinions. When faced with the unconventional task of grabbing ingredients from an inflatable bounce house, he sarcastically remarked that it wasn't a 5-year-old birthday party. Opting for onions, he took the opportunity to revolutionize his slider during the cooking process. As the first person from the red team to have his dish judged, Matt presented a shrimp roll with chipotle aioli, challenging the concept of the challenge itself. When criticized for not meeting the challenge's expectations and told that it was more of a roll than a slider, he argued that his team didn't understand his innovative approach.
So a lobster roll is a lobster roll, and then a slider is something completely...
I didn't say it was a lobster roll, because it's made with shrimp, obviously.
First of all, how dare he talk over Chef Christina? And then, despite Chef Ramsay's snarky remark about making a lobster patty for a lobster roll request, Matt persisted, claiming that he was doing something different.
If I asked you for a lobster roll, would you do me a slider?
What slider is?
The dish faced criticism for being excessively spicy with wilted greens, but Matt arrogantly brushed off their opinions.
What the f do they know? That's why they're running burger joints.
Yeah, like whatever. Ultimately, Matt lost the round to Paulie, but rather than acknowledging his shortcomings, he kept that arrogant act up. He also dismissed that defeat with a casual nonchalance. And let's not forget how he threatened Chef Ramsay with literal physical violence during his exit interview. Because, at that point, why not?
The whole time I've been here, it's been nothing but disrespect. If I was on the street right now and he came up to me with that same I'd him up point blank.
Oh, so you want to end up in jail like Ben Kaler for assault, right? Now here's something interesting I found. A server who once worked alongside Mark from season 19 took to Reddit to share that he took one of his friends from New York to dine at his restaurant. Unfortunately, the experience turned out to be a major letdown, harrowing in fact. The food was subpar, dry, and took an eternity to arrive. Frustrated by the disappointing experience, the server decided to leave an online review. However, instead of taking it professionally, Mark went off the deep end. He discovered the review and in a shockingly unprofessional move, started harassing the server. This included attempting video calls, crossing a line that most definitely shouldn't be crossed. The server also confirmed that Mark was abusive to the cooks. See, he's not the only one who has bad reviews for Mark. Another customer said the kitchen, with their celebrity chef, fresh from being eliminated early on Hell's Kitchen, took the overcooked eggs which had the sauce and cheese on them off of the bowl and topped it off with 2 undercooked eggs. Whites were still raw and clear. Not only were they raw, they were naked. No additional cheese or sauce, just 2 inedible eggs. But why am I even surprised? It was evident from the show that Mark had a very hard time accepting criticism.
You are super aggressive. Most of the people on this team say the exact same thing. And so if you don't want there to be problems...
It's an alignment, man. Come on.
He definitely overstayed his welcome, and his lack of self-awareness was so hard to miss. He had a tendency to talk over everyone else, which really rubbed me the wrong way, even with a likable cast that season. What's more, he boldly said how he was better than Declan and Amber during his elimination, which is simply far from the truth, especially with Declan. Like, who is he trying to fool?
My vote is Declan and Amber.
You think you're a better chef than Declan?
I do.
You think you're a better chef than me?
I'm convinced of it.
Not a single humble bone in his body. Anyway, prior to his last dinner service, Mark took charge of the appetizer station. When faced with a critical 12-top table order, Chef Ramsay issued a stern warning for him to deliver his absolute best. He made it clear that he wouldn't tolerate any shortcomings. Recognizing the need for assistance, Cody volunteered to handle the risotto, allowing Mark to concentrate on the carbonara. However, Mark's disorganization became evident when he couldn't locate the capers. In an attempt to guide him, Cody took the reins on the appetizer station.
I need white wine. I don't have white wine.
Get it together, man.
Do you need me to go offline and
White
get
wine, please, yes. Dinner service is starting up, and Mark's already in a haze.
Subsequently, Declan discovered that his flat top had been off the entire time, leading him to accuse Cody of turning it off when he was prepping the risotto. In response, he shut Cody out when the latter attempted to offer input on the risotto.
Who turned it off? Cody made the last risotto. Cody did. He cooked the risotto right here.
Unfortunately, his efforts resulted in a lackluster risotto and a curdled carbonara.
That's curdled overcooked. There's no fucking seasoning in
Mark,
there.
if I tell you it's not ready, it's not ready.
After Chef Ramsay showcased the disappointing dishes to the blue team, how was his refire? Well, considering Chef Ramsay's reaction, I don't think it was much better.
That's disgusting.
In the aftermath, Chef Ramsay gathered the blue team to taste the dish, pulling Mark into the back pantry room.
So far, nothing's come out on point. I'm warning you. Get a grip now. Yes, chef.
Following the loss in service, the blue team faced the task of nominating 2 members for elimination. And then, during the deliberations, Mark nominated Declan and Amber. He asserted that he outperformed the 2 and highlighted the significant issues with the meat and fish dishes that night. However, Cody countered by nominating Mark, accusing him of being responsible for the team's downfall and once again suggesting he turned off the oven. Denying the accusation, Cody maintained that his flat top had been consistently on throughout his time on Hell's Kitchen. Amidst the discussion, Amber pointed out Mark's inconsistencies in timing and argued for his elimination. Tensions flared as Declan accused Mark of dragging down the entire team, leading to Mark storming out of the dorms in frustration.
I can cook way better than that.
You deserve to go home.
The whole night. Well, you know what? Then I won't talk then. Fuck you guys.
In the end, pretty predictably, Mark emerged as the blue team's first nominee for elimination, with Cody being the second. And during his plea, Mark claimed that he had bounced back and accused the blue team of playing politics to protect themselves.
Is that true, Declan?
Not a fucking chance, chef. We carried him. We looked after him. We helped him set up.
Despite their protests, Chef Ramsay expressed disappointment in the lackluster risottos and overcooked carbonara, ultimately eliminating Mark for that and, well, so much more.
They were out to get me from the beginning. My team let me down a long time ago.
Yeah, truly one of the most satisfying eliminations ever. I mean, props to Cody for nominating himself to take that risk. Now, I have a question. Do you think that just because you appeared on one reality TV competition, it gives you the right to call yourself a celebrity chef? Mind you, you didn't even perform well on the show. For me, I don't think so, but guess what? The winner of season 10 has the gall to call himself one.
The winner of Hell's Kitchen is Tavon.
Confused? Honestly, me too, but let me try to explain. I'm talking about Tavon, whose achievements include, winning against the lying, conniving, manipulative Tiffany, I guess? No, but seriously, even Chef Christina Wilson doesn't proclaim herself to be a celebrity chef, and she has every right to. She'd rather let her work do the talking. Unlike Tavon, who's just a selfish jerk. And why do I say this? You see, Tavon has a cooking class by the name of Celebrity Chef Tav. Good grief, the narcissism. Now, one review in particular caught my attention. It read, "I booked a special dinner," or so I thought. This chef was an absolute walking disaster. Food is disgusting, and I wouldn't read it any better than cafeteria food. I mean, if anyone saw how spectacularly he failed his first service on the show, they know he's a fluke.
Are you serious that you're an executive chef?
Yeah, chef. I actually, yeah.
But wait, there's way more. Another person said that he basically ripped them off. Turns out, they bought a Groupon for the kids' cooking class, which was supposed to be an 8-week session. But when they arrived, nobody was around to relieve them. After a 30-minute wait time and endless calls and emails to the contacts provided, they had to return empty-handed, having wasted their precious time and money. While I really hope they got some form of compensation, it isn't the only review that put Tavon's unprofessionalism on blast. Tavon has been a no-show on several occasions despite promising to, actually do his damn job. So now, let's get to the main question here. What happened, Tavon? Why didn't you show up? Did you freeze?
I guess I froze.
You froze?
What else do you want me to say?
You haven't even fucking defrosted.
Well, that's just something he pulled off in a tight situation. Was it his escape mechanism? Well, maybe. Anyway, turns out, a couple years back, his organization went kaput. But I mean, are you honestly surprised? The whole setup was a mess. But if I have to highlight this time on the show, I'd go with the signature dish challenge when Tavon faced Chef Ramsay as the 8th contender from the blue team, pitted against Dana.
I'm an executive chef in DC.
And how old are you?
I'm only 22.
You're 22 and you're an executive chef running a brigade of chefs?
Yes.
Yeah, pretty sketchy. Most people start as dishwashers at that age and have to work their way up. Anyway, he presented a dish with shrimp, scallops, and crab over fettuccine alfredo and a whiskey-infused sauce. Unfortunately, Chef Ramsay's verdict wasn't exactly kind. But I mean, drowning it in vinegar wasn't gonna earn him anything but...
How much vinegar did you put in there?
I like the drizzle.
Drizzle?
Well, more than a drizzle.
I mean, it's hideous.
Losing the round to Dana, Tavon took offense at the judgment.
First time anybody said my food was so fucked up on so many different levels. This is horrible.
First time? Okay, believable. But certainly wasn't his last time. Tavon held down the appetizer station alongside Guy and Royce. His blunder came to light when he sent out raw pigeons, prompting Chef Ramsay to question if he genuinely held the title of executive chef.
This fucking pigeon's that raw it can still fly. Don't fucking cold and raw. Are you serious that you're an executive chef?
Yeah, chef.
As the night unfolded, it was revealed that Tavon's subpar slicing skills had sabotaged Justin's scallops, drawing harsh criticism from Chef Ramsay and the team.
You sabotaged them.
This is ugly. Scallops were just mutilated.
Looked like they got caught with a paperclip.
We're in trouble.
Hold on, it only gets better.
Avon treated those scallops like a homeless rat.
Accurate. In the face of Chef Ramsay's frustration, Tavon's excuse was that he simply froze. When the famous chef confronted him about his poor performance despite his executive chef status, Tavon nonchalantly claimed that he hadn't even defrosted yet. This response angered Chef Ramsay, leading to Tavon getting kicked out of the kitchen and sent to the dorms.
First time I've ever been kicked out of the kitchen in my career. Chef Ramsay, you're a fucking douchebag.
See ya, pal. But here comes the creepiest contestant of them all.
I'm an ass man, and the girl definitely has a little booty on her.
You were just an ass, man. And by the way, plenty of people have pointed out his weird comment about the sorority girls.
All these sorority girls coming running out from every door, all different directions. That's the kind of girl I used to look for when I was at fraternity parties getting drunk.
Now, in all honesty, Anton was very skilled in the kitchen.
Me and Chef Ramsay are exactly the same person. He's gonna love me like any father would.
That's an exaggeration, but yeah, you get the point, right? He was a strong chef, except his attitude absolutely sucked. I don't get people who always act like the victim and act as if the entire world is out to get them.
So this is my time to really get Anton fucked.
In season 12, during the 14th dinner service, Anton found himself getting flustered on the meat station. Kasia presented her salmon, but he insisted that he needed an additional 10 minutes for the Wellingtons, much to the dismay of the restless red diners.
10 minutes?
Yes, chef.
She's running up with the salmon. He's fucking 10 minutes away.
However, when Scott eventually sliced his Wellingtons, they turned out to be overcooked.
These are overcooked.
Yep. That's overcooked too, man. Those are all over.
Losing his patience, the famous chef reprimanded Anton for it, but Anton? Well, he had some serious beef with the ovens, senselessly claiming that they were different from the ones in the blue kitchen.
These are not a little over.
That's way over, yes. Obviously, I screwed it up with the oven. Next door's oven, I got it down pat. This one, I screwed it up.
Sous Chef Andy attempted to clarify the situation, mentioning that she had informed the red team about proper oven temperatures and timings. However, he completely dismissed her.
Don't think I'm gonna let some little girl get in my face, start ripping a new ass because you got issues on being a woman in the kitchen.
I mean, a woman's place is in the kitchen? Or what is a woman doing in the kitchen? Which one is it for misogynists, right? Like, pick a lane. Oh, and what is that little girl comment all about? You mean Gordon Ramsay's sous chef? I mean, the audacity at this point couldn't get worse. He definitely felt threatened by a woman of authority. When sous chef Andy started getting fed up with Anton's backtalk, he claimed that she would never be able to break him. If you ask me, I think the dude intentionally decided to get on her nerves, claiming that he had it all together. Well, that really set off sous chef Andy, and she screamed at him for mouthing off.
Pull it together.
I have it together, chef.
Don't you fucking talk back. Don't you ever
I'm not
talk
talking
back.
back.
Yes, you are. Pull it together.
Witnessing the disrespect, the famous chef then dragged him into the pantry room, with Scott predicting that he was heading for a crash and burn. But Anton, still claiming that he had it together, couldn't save those out-of-control Wellingtons.
You're not communicating. Your head's in the fucking stand. I need you to rise. Get it back together.
Yes, chef.
The red team took a beating, and Chef Ramsay didn't hold back on Anton, telling him that he basically sank the ship. Anton again tried blaming the oven, but Chef Ramsay shut that down real quick, reminding him that both kitchens had the same damn ovens.
That oven there is the exact same as that oven.
I'm just saying, I should have went in there and checked the oven myself.
When it came to the nominations, the red team had to pick 2 for the chopping block as always. In the discussion, Anton boasted about being a natural leader, but Joy didn't let him off easy, calling him out for his disrespectful attitude.
I know I'm a natural born leader. It's just part of who I am. Do I deserve to be up there? Not at all.
I'm sorry, that whole incident in that scene with Chef Andy, no. When she says something, it fucking go. You just shut the fuck up and take it.
In his plea, he boldly asserted that he knew exactly who he was, urging Chef Ramsay to acknowledge it too. However, Chef Ramsay was not swayed at all.
You peaked a few services ago. What I'm worried about is this downward spiral. Why can't you talk when you're in the weeds?
Yeah, even his emotional maturity peaked in high school. When questioned about his silence during the chaotic moments, Anton dismissed it as a non-issue for him, though he conceded that he could work on it.
Really feel like that was an issue for me, but clearly you feel that's an issue. If that's something I need to work on, then I have to work on it.
Ultimately, Anton got the axe for his lackluster meat performance, sour attitude, reluctance to admit his faults, and way more. Even while exiting the competition, he remained cocky.
One day, Chef Ramsay and I will meet again. Maybe next time it'll be his restaurant next door to mine. I didn't walk away with the crown, but I was the best out of everybody in there. So that makes me the winner of Hell's Kitchen, in my opinion.
Such crazy levels of delusion. And oh, I'm still waiting for the day when Chef Ramsay will open a restaurant next to Anton's. You know, come to think of it, Sabotage Sarah from Season 2, Johnny from Season 16 for taking sadistic pleasure in making women cry, and Scott Lee for bullying were also pretty evil. If you thought that was revolting, wait until you see the most horrific dish of them all.
Pick up the pace, let's go!
Using soccer, Chef Ramsay's favorite game, to designate countries for the fusion dishes.
Whatever target you hit, those will be the 2 cuisines that you have to fuse together to make an incredible dish.
Now, Ryan was gunning for French cuisine and was challenging Renisha for it.
I don't think Renisha is classically trained in French cuisine. I am, so you gotta play to your strengths.
But while he hit French, Renisha hit Japanese instead of Italian, which she was expecting.
I've never prepared Japanese cuisine, I've only eaten it, so we'll see how this goes.
Meanwhile, Demir hit Greek and Sandra hit Italian. Returning to Hell's Kitchen, the chefs faced a 45-minute window to craft their innovative fusion dishes. Renisha, who was stepping beyond her usual culinary boundaries, boldly put together a poke bowl. In the meantime, Sandra encountered an unexpected setback when her lamb dish caught fire while she was searing it.
My lamb's on fire.
Well, you can't say she didn't try to find the humor in it, huh?
That's okay, a little char, not gonna hurt nobody. There's flavor in char.
Anyway, the judges, led by Chef Ramsay and supported by Messina, emphasized the essence of fusion cuisine, and that was harmonizing distinct flavors. But sadly, misfortune struck Sandra yet again as her lamb turned out to be raw.
The lamb is so raw.
Now, only the orzo was left to be critiqued. Messina acknowledged her potential, but regretfully pointed out the inadequacy due to the undercooked meat. On the other hand though, Demir's pork chop turned out to be much better. As for Ryan, his miso braised sea bream fused those flavors together really well, but suffered from the starring element, the fish, being overcooked. Ultimately, this really made the whole thing a huge letdown. At the same time, Renisha's daring poke bowl was intriguing, but that's about all it had going for it. The dish didn't only draw criticism for its appearance and the missing elements from the judges, her competitors got in on the action too.
Brie, yes.
Brie, French cheese.
The cheese, yes, sir.
That sounds disgusting.
Well, you definitely can't say that the current season isn't as packed as everything that came before it. But who are you rooting for? Let me know in the comment section down below. However, stepping back to the signature dish challenge of season 21, one contestant was memorable for all the wrong reasons.
Right, what's under here?
So I kept it really simple. It's a tagliatelle pasta.
So when it was finally time to present her dish, Nicole put forward her fresh tagliatelle served with a fresh burrata sauce. However, Chef Ramsay doubted that the pasta was actually fresh. But was that suspicion unfounded?
You made the pasta, right?
No, for the sake of not because of the time.
Yep, she used packaged pasta due to the time crunch. Sure. Ramsay then asked her what the hell she got up to during the entire 45 minutes if the pasta was store-bought. Caught in a bit of a pickle, Nicole claimed that she dedicated the time to making the sauce, which only put the pressure back on her.
Because you didn't really make the sauce. I saw a tin of canned tomatoes in there.
Okay, yes.
Yikes, trust me guys, I got secondhand embarrassment watching this. Either way, Ramsay probed her further, and Nicole had to own up to using canned tomatoes for the sauce too. Apparently, the whole thing had come out of some package or another. In the end, all that processed, goodness, just failed to impress.
It actually tastes worse than it looks.
If he does that to me, I'll cry.
Me too, Cheyenne, me too. So, I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised to know that Nicole's score absolutely tanked. Anyway, in the final round, it was Billy and Summer battling it out with their dishes. Now this is when Billy shared a really surprising tidbit. He quit his job to be on the show and went by the nickname Be True.
What's under here?
This is my take on a chicken franchise, chef.
But here comes the big question, how was his dish? Well, his Parmesan chicken had some well-cooked risotto, but the way it clumped up on the plate was just unappetizing.
And there's enough here for two. It doesn't need all this on a plate. Let me be true to you. It's a 3.
Summer, on the other hand, introduced herself as VIP, a nickname stemming from a ticket order comment from her first job.
Like, you question it, and I'm like, everything.
Everything?
Everything.
Everything?
Everything.
Damn.
So she presented her stewed salmon with coconut rice, spilling the secret that she added sugar to the rice. However, the famous chef didn't exactly think that it earned her VIP status.
It's not VIP, it feels like general admission. It's not supposed to be that sweet.
Consequently, Chef Ramsay had no choice but to hand out yet another disappointing score. But all that hardly even compares to what Robin did in season 17. Now, before I go into that, why don't you take a moment to drop a like, subscribe, and turn on my post notifications. Also, don't forget to hit this tab right here to become a member of the channel. From crazy behind-the-scenes moments to even making video suggestions, there are tons of cool perks waiting for you. So with that out of the way, let's head back into the Chance Challenge. Robin presented her take on seared black cod marinated in a combination of peanut butter and blueberry gastric. And believe me, its execution left much to be desired.
Come on, Chef Ramsay, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5, 5.
Yeah, if only Chef Ramsay was as enthusiastic about the dish. However, it only took half a glance to see how disappointing it was. The plating was a complete mess, plain and simple.
So, looks like someone's been shot.
Oh, God.
If you ask me, Chef Ramsay's hilarious comparison was far from unwarranted. Like, I mean, come on, even my 4-year-old cousin draws a smiley face with ketchup that has better artistry than this. Anyway, roasting the presentation aside, the black cod itself failed to deliver in both taste and texture. It was more or less completely bland. And to make matters worse, the skin was way too rubbery.
I'm struggling to give that a 1. 1 out of 5.
But all this talk of bland and plain old uninspired dishes really reminds me of Johnny Boy over here. Honestly, this dude was a huge mess in individual challenges. Don't believe me? Well, watch this. Damn it. First, in the ostrich meat challenge, he had like zero creativity. Assigned with both ground meat dishes, he approached the task with confidence, but it didn't translate into his execution at all.
Badly conceptualized.
His deconstructed Hawaiian bacon burger featuring grilled pineapple and bok choy was hardly a feast for the eyes. Not just that, the dish failed to present a cohesive fusion of flavors, missing the mark in terms of balance and overall execution. Moving on to his chipotle chili, it didn't fare much better. Dry and uninspiring were honestly a pretty generous way to describe it. Frederic Morin went to the extent of considering the effort juvenile. Yeah, it was that bad.
Looks a bit dry.
It's a bit boring. It's kids' food.
Then, in the 7 Seas Seafood Challenge, he received the Atlantic Ocean Scroll, which revealed a key ingredient.
What will we have to eat? Bluefin tuna!
Bluefin tuna. As Ramsay would say, the Rolls Royce of the sea. But when he had the chance to be the opening act for the blue team, Chef Ramsay immediately started asking a ton of not-so-kind questions.
What in the happened to yours? Visually, yours looked like it's been attacked by a cat.
Well, no points for guessing that the dish wasn't gonna get him very far, as he ultimately lost the round to Heidi.
It's not even close. You know that, Johnny.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Heidi. Point goes to the red team.
But what followed was even worse. In the Southern Cuisine Challenge, Johnny found himself paired against Shayna from the red team and was working with a hanger steak, an absolutely delicious but tricky to work with cut. As the first representative from the blue team to face judgment, he presented his spicy hanger steak served over a bed of garlic hash and bell pepper. Once again, it was a huge flop.
A little nondescript, doesn't have any zing.
Not only did they find the flavors lacking the anticipated punch, they couldn't look past the fact that there was a massive pool of blood on the plate. So the round ultimately being handed to Shayna was more than a foregone conclusion.
A little bit too much blood on the plate. You haven't let it rest.
God, the thing looks like a crime scene. And obviously, the overall outcome was arguably responsible for sinking the entire blue team, as they lost the challenge by a narrow margin of 2-3. By the way, the consequence for their defeat was a laborious punishment, prepping shrimp and grits for their next service. This involved grinding corn, cleaning shrimp, and preparing both kitchens. Hardly a walk in the park, right? Lastly, in the midst of the International Ballroom Planning Challenge, Johnny encountered a whirlwind of stress as time slipped through his fingers. His turmoil escalated as he grappled with the challenge of crafting mayonnaise, struggling to keep pace with the ticking clock. Teamed up with Polly to tackle the beef entrees, Johnny found himself among the last pair from the blue team to present their dishes, squaring off against Andrew and Ryan. Now, what was his offering? Spicy flank steak tostadas.
To me, this has to taste fantastic because the presentation isn't as good as the other three.
But this time, Johnny's dish was absolutely uninspired. In defense of his lackluster presentation, Johnny decided to cite this unreasonable excuse.
Yeah, I ran out of time.
However, Chef Ramsay promptly reminded him that every participant was racing against the same clock.
Everybody had 40 minutes.
Yes, chef.
That filet mignon had 40 minutes. So did the skewers. Start that.
Yes, chef.
And of course, the critique didn't stop there. Johnny's tostadas were lambasted even further for their downright unpleasant texture.
It's neither crispy nor it's sort of gummy.
Those have to be the most appetizing words I've ever heard. Now, once again, Johnny found himself on the losing end of yet another red team victory.
Johnny's is out, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Horrible with a capital H. That's really the only way I could describe it. And you know what else was horrible? The duck challenge from season 5. Ugh. So this is the moment when Jackie was paired with Frank in a canoe, and she didn't shy away from acknowledging his strength as a competitor.
I feel confident going up against Frankie. He's a good chef, and I'm a good chef too, so I'm definitely gonna cook a better dish than Frank.
Confident in her own skills, she believed that her dish could outshine his without a doubt. Now, in a bold move, she took a risk during the cooking process by deciding to puree her waxed beans. She saw this as a calculated risk that might just give her that little extra edge. But was it? We'll see.
Oh man, this is not thick enough at all. But I have a plan and a mission.
However, when her duck, accompanied by that waxed bean puree, hit the table, the crowd went mild. Critics found that her dish lacked finesse, a sentiment that was reflected in her modest score of just, well, I'll let them say it.
There's no finesse on this at all.
Then Jackie teamed up with Kristen for the Holiday Platter Challenge, and she showcased her 4th of July platter in the face-off against Joe and Frank.
You want to just do an apple? Maybe it'll tie everything together. Whatever, it's fine. It's not fine.
Yeah, so if you've been watching this show for a while, there's no way that you haven't heard about this train wreck of a dish. Her initial attempt, a beer poached sausage partnered with pickled red onion and apple, fell very flat as far as flavor was concerned. The confusing combination was a complete non-starter that failed to harmonize, resulting in a big fat 0.
The apple isn't really working for me. Not worthy of a 1.
Jackie swung again with her second dish, a cheeseburger topped with apple slaw. However, the burger that landed on the plate was still raw. Anyway, that apple slaw nonsense somehow made the whole thing even worse. Yet another 0.
I'm not gonna let you eat that, I'm so sorry.
Imagine a raw burger in a magazine, ladies.
Wait, hold on a sec. Let's rewind. Speaking of the duck challenge, Hassan was in the hot seat as the 5th contestant from the blue team to face judgment, squaring off against Mies. He whipped up a dish featuring duck breast with cabbage ragu. Unfortunately, his creation fell short in the presentation department, drawing some heavy criticism.
I'm struggling. A 1.
Yeah, I agree, a 1. I know it looks visually appalling.
Ouch, at least he was self-aware though. But that doesn't mean his dish wasn't bad. Then, in the Chef Andy Wedding Planning Challenge, Hassan joined forces with Danny to tackle the beef entree. They faced Judgment as the second pair, squaring off against Frank and Jared from the blue team. Hassan's creation was a porcini-crusted ribeye accompanied by Yukon Gold puree topped with caviar. Ooh, sounds fancy, however, things didn't pan out as he hoped.
Yeah, the caviar on the potatoes is a bit weird to me.
Okay.
And sadly, his wasn't the only dish that failed to impress. The winner of the season also found herself in a similar situation. Yeah, I know. So, Ariel was teamed up with Kristen for the seafood appetizer round. They were the initial duo from the red team to face Judgment and were pitted against Chad and Joe from the blue team. Now, Ariel's creation was a grilled squid stuffed with lobster claw, but unfortunately, it faced really harsh criticism. Chef Ramsay bluntly remarked that the dish looked, well, phallic. And I mean, come on, he wasn't wrong.
It's really opaque looking.
Slightly phallic in terms of, looks like the bison's penis.
Alright, let's get our minds out of the gutter. Moreover, the squid, oh boy, that's definitely not helping things. The squid itself fell short in terms of preparation. It was undercooked, and undercooked calamari is pretty much the dictionary definition of chewy. Unsurprisingly, Ariel's dish failed to secure any points in the challenge.
You didn't cook the squid enough. It's still raw, it's very chewy.
It's just kind of off-putting visually.
Yeah, that thing looked like a pale, blubbery mess. I mean, it was just downright unappetizing to look at, and I was seeing it secondhand. Imagine how bad Chef Ramsay had it with front row seats. But arguably, he had it worse here. In season 14, during the Greek Cuisine Challenge, a showdown between Josh and Allison was underway, and the star of the show was lamb. Now, Josh made a dramatic entry into plate smashing, brutally annihilating his first plate, only to be disheartened by the selection of oranges.
Oranges, are you kidding me?
With the clock ticking down, the pressure cooker situation intensified as he realized he needed to pick up the pace on his lamb dish. But as time became his enemy, anxiety kicked in and he was worried that his lamb wouldn't have the luxury of properly resting.
Damn, I need a minute to let my meat rest.
As the clock wound down, Josh was the first hopeful from the blue team to showcase his creation. It was a seared lamb served with tri-colored couscous, candied orange, and apple. I mean, it sounds good on paper, right? But unfortunately, the dish landed in a pool of trouble.
What is the liquid?
That is blood, chef.
Yup, if you've cooked meat before, you probably saw that coming from a mile away. A plate swimming with the telltale signs of improperly rested meat, a pool of blood that was as unappetizing as it was unprofessional.
Was that done on purpose?
No, chef, it was not.
Chef Ramsay and Michael Silakis refused to even take a bite.
It looks like a dog's chewed it.
It's a mess. I wouldn't serve this dish.
That was a next level catastrophic crash and burn. And this next dish came pretty close in competition. So during the International Cheese Challenge, Sarah faced off against Randy, whipping up a lasagna as their dish. Things got really interesting when Sarah decided to take a detour and jazz up her lasagna with some pistachios, much to Megan's disagreement. When Chef Ramsay got around to judging her dish, she was the 6th in line from the red team. And well, Sarah proudly presented her creation, a blue cheese and pistachio infused lasagna. However, Chef Ramsay wasn't vibing with the pistachios at all. He straight up called out Sarah for going a bit too far with her flavor choices. Unfortunately, her bold move didn't pay off and she ended up losing the round to Randy. Tough break, huh?
I said out the box, but you've gone out of this world. Congratulations, Randy. Great job.
Now, how many of you remember Ray's facehugger lobster? His bold proclamation about his lobster choice during the presentation challenge seemed promising initially. He confidently declared his protein choice, asserting that in Boston, lobster was as ubiquitous as water with dinner. But in spite of that, he wasn't going to be keeping it traditional.
The flavor's great. It's big, it's vibrant, it's bold. Boom, there it is.
However, Ray's dish failed to make the cut for judging. If you're wondering why, then look at this monstrosity.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie, that.
The plate's a little scary. I think it's just too overdone.
Sorry to scare you.
In short, it looks scary. Well, sometimes chefs whip up the most absurd dishes all in the name of creativity. And what happened in the Creative Dessert Challenge of Season 9 was no different.
Time's up.
All right, we're done.
So this time, the red team had a surplus dish, and thanks to Elise's oversized portions, it was dropped.
Elise, you have the weakest desserts on the red team. Unfold your arms.
However, despite the red team somehow scraping by the thinnest of margins, Elise didn't hold back in airing her grievances. She griped about her dish not being chosen over what seemed to be a safe option by Carrie. When Elise finally got her shot to shine with the fresh berry sabayon, Chef Ramsay didn't sugarcoat his criticism. He slammed her dessert for looking more suited for a banquet than a single serving, and didn't mince words about the overwhelming vinegar that completely sabotaged any hope of a decent taste.
How much vinegar have you put in there?
Just a splash.
Smell the vinegar in there.
It was hilarious to see her ego crushed, and Chef Ramsay reminded her just how lucky she was to just scrape by with any points at all.
Today's your lucky day. Let me tell you why. We're not awarding a 0. You made the right choice dropping that, let me tell you.
She definitely needed that blunt reality check. However, here comes another contestant who needed a reminder as well. In the Gourmet Sandwich Challenge, Autumn stepped up with a roasted pork loin sandwich featuring sautéed veggies and balsamic reduction. But things hit a snag right off the bat. The sandwich wasn't even cut properly. When Chef Ramsay questioned if there were any knife troubles, Autumn insisted that it was all good on her end.
No, I thought it was fine.
You thought it was fine?
Oh no. The famous chef, not holding back, called out the presentation for being shocking. He even went a step further by saying,
That's the kind of thing I'd expect from a sort of first-year culinary student.
Ouch. Then, in the second part of the Pork Creation Challenge in the same season, Maria teamed up with Scott, the final duo from the red team, to face the judging panel. She confidently presented a sweet potato soup adorned with ham hock, aiming to impress with her creation.
We put another pan over it and let it like pressure cook, like let it kind of marinate, not like a lot at all.
Breathe.
However, Maria's enthusiasm got the best of her. She couldn't seem to hit the pause button on her description of her dish, causing visible annoyance among her team and perhaps even herself. But the real bomb dropped when Chef Ramsay pointed out a glaring violation.
Congratulations! You just screwed your team.
He just knows how to kill the spirits, huh? But they deserved it. Maria and Scott had flouted the rules by using the ham hock as a mere garnish rather than making it the star ingredient.
And you're serving me a sweet potato soup garnished with a spoon of ham hock?
This breach in the rules led to their defeat against Jay and Salvatore. Understandably embarrassed and filled with regret, Maria said this.
I'm an idiot.
That's an accurate self-assessment. Last on this list, we have Amanda, the fourth contender from Season 6's Red Team, who brought a surprising twist to the table during her face-off with Tony in the Signature Dish Challenge.
What's your dish?
Margarita French toast with tequila wine butter.
Show me.
She dashed back to the line, snagging some tequila shots, hoping for a camaraderie shot with Chef Ramsay. Surprisingly, upon his inquiry about the liquid courage, she cheerfully confirmed that it was tequila.
1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila, 4. Keep on going.
But the real shocker came when she presented her creation, Margarita French toast slathered with tequila wine butter. Chef Ramsay's disbelief was palpable. He straight up thought that he was being pranked.
What the fuck were you doing? Because that takes literally 3 minutes. Shocking.
True that. The concept seemed lost amidst the tequila haze, and unfortunately for Amanda, this unconventional pairing didn't turn out in her favor. Eventually, she had to graciously hand the round over to Tony. So which of these dishes do you think was the worst? Let me know in the comment section down below. And by the way, if you enjoyed this video, you have to check out this next one right here since it's even better.